Here's how to strengthen your body for better running during the winter months. If you're struggling with constant injuries or not getting any faster as a runner, I'm going to share with you why winter is the best time to finally get over these common sticking points in your running journey with my 6 steps to building a stronger running body. As a running physical therapist and coach for over 20 years now, my team and I have provided these same recommendations to help thousands of runners who are struggling with recurring injuries or hitting a plateau in their training, who thought that their body was just too old for running. Not only have I been preaching these 6 steps for the running community, but I have also personally implemented these same strategies for the past 3 years in my running journey, which has led me to getting a 23-minute PR at the Cape Cod Marathon and then going on to finish 48.6 magical miles in Disney as part of the Dopey Challenge a couple of months later, and then actually coming within 4 minutes of that marathon PR, which you wouldn't expect the day after running a half marathon. And I want to share with you really these 6 steps to growing a stronger running body. So whether you're looking to stay active this winter or off season and you're not sure what to do, have been doing the same thing every off season and you keep getting injured, or you're not getting any faster when you run your spring race, these 6 steps will help you. So let's get started. Unlock your running potential with these 6 essential steps to strengthen your body for better running. And I want to share with you a story about one of our runners in our community, Teresa. She is a rehab professional herself, and last December finally decided to invest in herself for a change after many months of deliberation on whether she needed guidance in getting the right strength exercises for her stubborn proximal hamstring tendon pain, or PHT. And Teresa actually detailed her journey in episode 244 on the Healthy Runner podcast, but she was struggling with proximal hamstring tendinopathy for many years. And while she was able to push through runs or races, she felt like she was losing power. She was getting slower and was in pain for longer periods of time. And once we actually started working together, I created a personalized plan that incorporated strength training, something she always ignored, running mindset, nutrition, and recovery. And just before she started that coaching block, she would run a hard effort and, for a half marathon and could barely walk for several days afterwards because of that hamstring pain. And within a few months of working together, she was able to actually get rid of that pain, get stronger, and then complete the New York City half marathon in a time that she couldn't have imagined, after the last half marathon that she ran in the fall. And by the time that we were done with our 4 months of working together, she was feeling stronger and more confident with every run. She then went on to build from that base training, turned to half marathon training, and began working with Coach Lou on our team, in which she got a marathon PR and a BQ time, which she actually detailed in that episode 244 on the Healthy Runner podcast if you want to learn more about her story. But she's also continuing to get the guidance from Coach Lou during this winter training block. And I'm excited. And so is, Lou excited to see what Teresa does in the New York City half this spring. And then what she's going to do next fall for Chicago Marathon, in which she is signed up for. So this is kind of a common scenario that I want to share with you. So if you have a story like Teresa's, it probably won't be PHT or hamstring tendon pain, but you might have looked at running from the perspective of, yeah, you're going to kind of casually run throughout the year, or maybe you'll run throughout the year, but then you're going to start quote unquote marathon training. And now you're going to print out your 16, 18, 20-week plan, or you're going to download it from an app and you're just going to follow it, or you're just going to follow the one on your watch. And if you're struggling with these injuries, or if you're at a plateau in your running journey, this is this is why I'm creating this for you today. It's for if you're in a similar situation to Teresa, because these principles, they are going to work for you in these 6 steps. And it really starts with reframing your mindset for winter or the off season of running. Winter is not the time to take off of running because you got injured for your goal half marathon or your marathon in the fall. Winter is not the time to quote unquote rehab only, where you go to the PT's office and you go 3 times a week for the next 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 12 weeks. You do some random exercises in the corner of a room that a high school student's probably taking you through. Winter's not that time. That's not going to advance your running journey. Winter's not the time to take off of running to quote unquote allow your body to heal from the training that you did in the fall. Winter is the prime time for base building. This is our off season as a runner, and it is the most critical time to grow in your running journey. And this is the most underrated season, or as I like to say, it's the hero of marathon or half marathon training. If you're not getting healthy now and you don't master the fundamentals, then it doesn't matter what amazing or fancy plan that you're following for your marathon block, because you're going to wind up missing runs because you're in pain. This is the season for going back to like the farmer analogy. This is the season where we're going to like sow the seeds, right? We're going to plant them so you can actually reap the harvest in the springtime, no matter what your running goals are. So whether you're running a half marathon, 10K, 5K, marathon, maybe you just want to get out the door consistently when the weather actually gets nice and you can enjoy nature, right? Like no matter what your goals are, this is the season to kind of sow those seeds. So this is an exciting time. And I want you to be excited for it. I want you to reframe your mindset that you get the opportunity to work on improving on your weaknesses. And this is the best time to do it because you don't have any pressure, right? There's no pressure. It's not like your race is in 4 weeks from now. And if you don't do that long run, or if you don't hit that time for that speed work, it's going to be super critical. So this is the most important feature and thing to really consider when heading into winter or your off season from racing is just reframing your mindset as one of opportunity and growth for which all future running will be built upon. And by the way, if this is our first introduction, first off, welcome. I'm Dr. Duane Scotti. I am a running physical therapist and coach, educator, founder of Spark Healthy Runner, creator of the Healthy Runner podcast, and my mission is to preserve the health and longevity of runners everywhere by allowing them to enjoy lifelong injury-free running. And I like the mindset piece is huge. Okay. So that's where you have to start. So that's step 1. So now let's get to step 2 to strengthen your body for better running. And a runner that I'm thinking about, and this was like super instrumental for him, is Sean. Sean started working with Coach Whitney in the winter months. He was following, the Hal Higdon free plans online that many of us follow when we start our running journey. And Sean was an experienced marathoner. So the only problem was he never really quite put together a good training cycle. And, he was kind of stuck, right? He was stuck at that plateau that I was mentioning earlier. And before working with us, he really never did a running workout or running focused strength training. So getting the structured strength training approach and working with Coach Whitney each step of the way, he was able to shave off 45 minutes in his marathon time working with Coach Whitney. Like that is huge, especially for someone who is a experienced marathoner, right? Like maybe if it's your second marathon, you can do that because you like learn kind of marathon training is completely different from half marathon training or just going from the couch. But most importantly, Sean stayed healthy. And the one time he did have some pain pop up, we were able to work with him to get him to the start line without having any issues on marathon race day, and he didn't have to miss any runs or miles. And as Sean says, like, he was finally good at the thing that he loves to do. Isn't that like super empowering, right? And like, Sean is a middle-aged guy, right? Like dad, and he loved running, but he was like stuck. So I love his story, and it really speaks to the power of strength training in order to run, because that was the missing link for him, right? Strength training for running must include 5 elements. It needs to target your run specific muscles. It needs to include weight bearing exercises with your foot on the ground, because when we're running, our feet are on the ground. It must include exercises in which you're on one leg, because we're always running on one leg. We don't run on 2 legs. That would be walking. And then 4, it must include jump training exercises, or what we call plyometrics. I'm going to get to that in a little bit more detail. And then 5, it must be periodized to match your training cycles throughout the calendar year. So right now, heading into winter, heading into the off season, this is your base building. And strength training needs to look different during this time period than it does when you're peaking and in your race season. All right. So those are the 5 elements. And I want to invite you to actually download our Strong Glute Guide, which this is especially made for you if you are a runner who gets knee pain, let's say, when you run too fast or you run up hills, or you start building out those long runs. Like every springtime, basically, like coming out of winter, you start actually running more than an hour, right? And your knees start hurting. So if you're a runner who's been like frustrated in the past, whenever you try to increase speed, increase distance, you wind up getting injured, whether it is knee pain or another injury. And one of the biggest reasons for this is weakness in your hip muscles or your run specific muscles. And runners really don't know how to actually strengthen those muscles, even if you're doing some standard exercise. I actually just met with a gentleman yesterday. He was doing strength training. He was doing some squats and he was doing some deadlifts. He was doing some machines in the gym. He was doing hamstring curls, but we were able to pick up on weakness in his hip muscles, which was contributing to his hip drop with running, which was contributing to his knee pain that he's having right now with marathon training, right? So these are really important. And this is why I created this resource for you. It's a free ebook, and it really teaches you how to actually activate your hip muscles. And then you can also master my 25-minute level 1 strength exercises for runners that will teach you how to activate those 7 essential muscles that we need to be turned on as runners. So you can just get the download for that wherever you're listening to this. I'll have it linked in the comment box, or if you just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/strong hips, you can be able to get that download. And oftentimes, we as runners jump right into, how do I get faster? How do I improve my pace? How do I run a marathon in under 4 hours? How do I find the best half marathon training plan? No, the question is, how do you grow as a runner? Where do you start with improving? What is the foundation of your running? Like, I wish someone would have tried to build this house that I'm in right now, literally starting with the roof, right? Like, how would that go if we started to build your house starting at the roof? Isn't it funny, like when they build a house, like you ever drive by a house that's being built, like see how much they dig down, right? They're digging down deep. They're digging down into the soil. They dig down into the dirt. They put something inside of something that when it turns to rain, it turns to mud, right? When was the last time you got inside your own dirt, your own mud? When have you gone deep down inside yourself and said to yourself, what do I need to change for my running before I try to get faster or run longer? Strength training is the foundation for which all future healthy and faster running is built upon. And there is no better time to double down on your strength training than during the winter months when you're in your off season of hard training. You have the time, so you can't use that as an excuse, right? For those of you who don't like strength training, you've kind of used that as, I don't have time. I'm running so much, right? I'm peaking in my training. I have the most weekly miles. I'm out there for 2 hours for my long runs. I don't have time for strength training. For those of you who are tuning me out right now, like, strength training will bulletproof your body. It's going to bulletproof your joints. So if you have some arthritis, if you had a labral tear in your hip like I did, if you have patellofemoral joint pain or what we call runner's knee, it's going to bulletproof your joints. It's going to bulletproof your muscles. So for those of you who have pulled your hamstring before, your hamstrings felt tight, your hip flexor feels tight, you get some tightness and pain in the front of your hips. You strain your calf muscle whenever you try to run faster. You feel like you have tight calves. It's usually due to a strength deficit in your calf muscles. Strength training is going to bulletproof your tendons. So for those of you who have struggled with Achilles tendon pain, posterior tibial tendon pain, proximal hamstring tendon pain, these are common tendons that runners will get a tendonitis in. Strength training will prevent that. And it's also actually the treatment for many of those conditions with specific strength training exercises. So simply put, you can't get faster as a runner or get a PR if you aren't healthy. Right? Point blank. Strength training will keep you healthy during your training so you can actually put the work in and reap the rewards on race day. So, therefore, step 2 to strengthen your body for better running is to perform strength training for runners. Or, as I like to say, strength train in order to run. Step 3 in how we actually get our bodies stronger during the winter months is we need to do plyometrics in order to run. And the 3 reasons why I want you to add plyometrics or incorporate what we call jump training into your training in order to run is number 1, plyometrics are going to improve your running economy and efficiency. So let's geek out a little bit here and get into the physiology of our bodies for a minute. In your body, you have muscles, right? And you have 2 different types of muscles in your body. We have what we call slow twitch muscles, which are type 1 muscle fibers, which are aerobic in nature. These are the muscles that are primarily used when we're out there as distance runners. And if we're running any length of time, if you're running more than 30 minutes and you're using a lot of your type 1 muscle fibers. The other muscle fibers we have are type 2 muscle fibers. These are our fast twitch fibers. So these are used for more explosive, powerful sports such as, doing the high jump, powerful lifts, right? If you think of your Olympic lifts, like those are explosive in nature. This is like running, the 50-meter dash, right? Pretty darn explosive, right? The fastest man in the world, fastest woman in the world, jumping as high as possible to slam dunk a basketball, right? Jumping as high as possible to spike a volleyball. Those are all of our type 2 muscle fibers are being used. And when we're doing, let's say, interval workouts or we're doing a tempo run, if you're doing speed work, then your fast twitch type 2 muscle fibers are kicking in somewhat. And these are also known as our anaerobic muscles, meaning that when we run out of oxygen, they're going to kick in or they don't require oxygen to actually kick in. So this is a little like muscle physiology for you and helps you understand what our body is made of. And part of being an efficient runner is being able to recruit more muscle fibers, because the more that you can recruit, the better you can push off the ground and the faster you'll be. So let's say you're running 3 miles. Your slow twitch muscle fibers are fatiguing out at some point, then you're going to want to kick in some of your fast twitch muscle fibers so you don't slow down. I know for me, like, it's really start fatiguing at mile 10 of a half marathon, where things really start getting hard and I start struggling to hold my pace, it's hard for me to kind of hold that pace later in a race. And if you think about like mile 20 plus, when you're running the marathon, same thing, right? In order to keep the pace as your type 1 muscle fibers start to fatigue, you want to have some reserves and to kick in some type 2 muscle fibers to help your running economy hold. And if you can kick in those type 2 muscle fibers, you're going to be more efficient because you can actually use more oxygen. You can be able to feed those, muscles in your body to not slow down. So then you're able to actually maintain your pace later into a race. And research has been done on plyometric training compared to other specific exercises. And the results show that runners who add plyometric training into their exercise program can be more economical as a runner versus those runners who only do weightlifting. So if you're more of a 5K, 10K runner, you really want to make sure that you're adding plyometric exercises into your program. And for those who are training for the half marathon, marathon distance, like I am right now, you should be thinking of adding plyometrics to be able to help you maintain your pace later in the race. And if you're doing a 5K, like, you want to be able to tap into some of those muscle fibers during the race because, yeah, a 5K feels like a sprint for me. It is aerobic, don't get me wrong. But, you're going to need those type 2 fibers a little bit more. So that's the reason why to add in plyometric training in the off season. The other reason is to actually strengthen your muscles and tendons for injury prevention. So that's really the second benefit, is strengthening those muscles, strengthening those tendons in order to prevent injury. As adult runners, our tendons have the least amount of blood flow out of all the structures in our body. And as we age, it gets a little less blood flow, and the structure of our tendons are not as good and they're not as healthy. And there's different types of collagen. And if we're pushing ourselves as runners, like we want to challenge ourselves, sometimes our tendons can get overused and you get a little inflammation. And usually that leads to kind of some abnormal healing in the tendon where the collagen is really not healing appropriately. Doing plyometric exercises is going to actually strengthen your tendons because you rebound off the floor. So if you think of jumping, you're going to hit the ground, rebound right off the floor. So we're actually loading your tendons. That's like our elastic energy. And that's what we do when we run. It's literally, running is a series of hops from one foot to the other. So we're using that elastic energy, hitting the ground, springing back off the ground. And then the third reason to really add in plyometrics or jump training into your programming is to improve your speed and performance. Like most of us, at some point, no matter what your ability is, we want to get a little faster as a runner, right? Like, I'm not sure if you do. You might not. You might just enjoy the mental clearing miles. Totally fine. I love my mental clearing miles. Don't get me wrong. But I also like to challenge myself, right? And see, can I get faster in this distance? Can I get faster with this type of training? And this is one of those things that plyometrics have been shown that you can add these into your half marathon, marathon training, and you're able to actually improve speed, improve performance, and be able to actually recover from those training sessions because your body's more efficient now. So, step 3 of strengthening your body for better running during this off season, during the winter months, is to implement plyometrics or jump training into your training during the off season to work on those type 2 muscle fibers, to strengthen those tendons and prevent injury, and to even improve your speed and performance. So we're making you more efficient when your foot hits the ground and rebounds off of the ground. The fourth step to building a stronger running body this winter has to do with aerobic fitness being the key. This is the priority and the focus on building mileage with easy conversational paced running and continuing to have a long run once a week. Building your aerobic base at the start of your season doesn't just create a strong foundation, it also sets you up for harder and more intense workouts later on. And, cycling base training, or, Megan Trainor got it right? It's in that it's all about that base, no treble. You guys feeling me there? Right? She got it right. It's all about the base, and it's about that base training. And it can vary from anywhere between 6 weeks to 12 weeks. And I want you to think about that in terms of training cycles. I mentioned periodization before, and that we have different focus and goals at different points of your yearly calendar. And this really starts at the beginning of the training season, we like to call it, or if you want to think of it at the end of your last training season. And it's well before the goal events. And for those of you who might be new to running, like your first 500 consistent miles that you have in your running journey is considered base training. And this is where literally 100% of your run should be done at conversational pace, meaning you're getting more efficient at running. So this is, if we had to do an RPE scale, rating of perceived exertion, you're running at a 4 or 5 out of 10. Or if you're looking at heart rate, you're looking at like 70, maybe 80% of your max heart rate. So you're in zone 2, we call it, or maybe zone 3. I would highly encourage you to stay in zone 2. And the reason we do this kind of easy conversational pace, building up this aerobic fitness, is because there are multiple benefits. One is you're going to train the cardiovascular system and the muscular system to efficiently absorb, deliver, and utilize oxygen while removing waste products such as carbon dioxide, lactic acid. The more efficient we're able to do that, the faster we can run, the longer we can run, and do those longest long runs you've ever done in your life. At the cellular level, we actually increase the number and the size of our mitochondria, which improves our muscles' ability to receive and process oxygen and conserve stores of glycogen. I always like kind of giggle when I say mitochondria because I don't know if I get a flashback from like high school biology. And the only thing I remember from high school biology is like the mitochondria are like the powerhouse of the cell. That's the only thing. Like shout out to my high school biology teacher, which was many decades ago, but it stuck with me, right? So I remember that the mitochondria are important because they're the powerhouse of the cell. And doing easy conversational pace running is actually going to increase the number of mitochondria you have and the size of that mitochondria. So there are actually like changes at the cellular level when you're running easy and keeping that effort level down. So you need to reframe your thinking. If you have a goal for a marathon, you want to run a 10-minute marathon pace. You want to run a 9-minute marathon pace, 8-minute. You pick the number, 12-minute marathon pace. You're not going to actually train at that pace during this off season. You're going to master easy running because of these benefits. And the other thing that it allows your muscles and your legs to actually withstand running forces that are able to adapt, and also adapts the tendons, the ligaments, the bones to stress that is sustained in the loading of running. So there are these multiple benefits. And I get this question a lot of like, what is a good weekly mileage for base training? And it is going to be about 75% of your peak weekly miles that you would normally do during half marathon training or marathon training. So let's just say your peak half marathon weeks of training you traditionally will do is like maybe you peak at 30 miles per week. So using that example, if we're doing 75% of that, then during your base building, your winter, your off season, you want your miles per week to be around 22. And if let's use a marathon, for example, and let's say you're a 40, miles per week marathon, that's kind of where you go in your peak. Right. It's pretty common. I would say the majority of folks are kind of in that realm, some lower, some higher, but let's use 40. If we're doing 75% of that, some simple math there, it's going to be 30 miles per week during base training. So notice how it's not 10 miles per week. Notice that it's not, I'm just going out there 2 times a week just to do some running because it's the off season, right? We still need to maintain this level of base training with consistent running. All right. So hopefully that makes sense for you. And I really encourage most runners to get out there minimum 4 days a week. If you do a lot of cross training and or you're a triathlete, 3 days a week works. But I really find 4 to be that magic number that allows our bodies to adapt to the demands of running, so you can stay healthy. And so for the majority of the runners I work with during this base building phase, we're going to do like a 4-day or a 5-day plan. It's rare that I'm having folks run 6 days during base building. So therefore, step 4 in how to strengthen your body for better running is to implement consistent running and build that strong aerobic base. Now, step 5, and I'm going to take a little swig here because this is what step 5 relates to. It really relates to what I use in the house analogy in how we grow as runners in our 6 steps. This is like installing the electrical and plumbing. It is giving you the spark that you need. And what gives you that spark? Carbs and hydration. So I just needed to take a little swig of my water there because I needed to remind myself to hydrate, right? So after my strength training and run this morning, and this is so important during base building or during the winter months that is often totally forgotten about. Because number one, you're usually not sweating a whole lot in the winter time because the weather is cooler and you're not really thirsty. So you just kind of avoid this. And I used to do this myself. But it is key because if you are running depleted on either glycogen from a nutrition standpoint or hydration wise, and you are slightly dehydrated, but you don't know it, it's going to affect your performance. It's going to affect how your muscles recover from your strength training that we mentioned, your plyometrics, or your easy running that you are doing. So during the winter months of base training, I am really going back to the fundamentals and fueling my runs and my workouts. And Brooke, our registered dietitian for runners, she always says that most runners are not taking nutrition seriously during the winter. And this is your time to actually hone in on the basics and get a good understanding of fueling and what your body needs. And like I mentioned, I'm guilty of this and slacking off in my nutrition while base building in the past, but it's made a huge difference for me. And it's arguably the most important time to focus on nutrition as when you're trying to build a good foundation for race season and the stakes aren't so high. So maybe you try a fueling method that doesn't agree with your stomach and you totally bonk on your long run. It's not going to make a big deal because it's not like it's 4 weeks before your race and now you're stressed out that you didn't get that 10 miler in for that half marathon, or you just blew up on your 18-mile long run for your marathon, and now that means like you're not going to be ready for race day, right? So the stakes are low, guys. This is where you want to actually hone in on those fundamentals. And what are they from a nutrition standpoint? You got to eat enough food to support your training. You have to eat plenty of carbs. Carbs are going to give you spark. Don't run fasted. You need to eat a pre-run snack, and this will allow you to actually recover like a boss because you're going to be doing a lot more strength training, as we mentioned, right? And probably strength training that you haven't done before in previous winters, previous off seasons. So you have to recover. The downtime is when our muscles actually rebuild and recover to get stronger and grow. So please remember that like nutrition can be highly individualized as well. And if you have any questions relating to your specific situation, please reach out to Brooke within our Healthy Runner Facebook community for clarification. Or if you want her to design your specific nutrition plan as your registered dietitian, we do have a nutrition add-on package to our coaching program, which you can learn more about working with Brooke within our Healthy Runner Signature Coaching Program by clicking the link in the show notes that I have for you. And I can't, recommend highly enough what a game changer it has been for me to fuel before my runs personally. So graham crackers have been my recent go-to. Medjool dates have been fan favorites in the past. Sometimes a little combo platter in the morning before I go out for my run. But then on my days where I'm doing a run and then strength training after, a UCAN energy bar, boom, it's like magic. It is golden. So I'll have that, especially if you're going to be like doing strength training for an hour or more, which I pretty much am doing, especially during base building phase. That UCAN bar, it's not like it's big and heavy. It's smaller, but it packs a good amount of fuel in it and slow acting carbs that actually really give you the energy that you need to actually complete the workout. So I can't recommend those enough. Those have been like game changing for me. So just a little kind of tip there. So step 5 in growing that strong running body during the off season or winter is going to really be to focus on running nutrition, which includes fueling and hydration. So now I want to know, I'm like personally want to know here, which of these steps that I shared with you have you ignored in the past during off season or the winter months? Is it strength training? Is it consistent running? Or is it proper nutrition? Like, if you can please let me know in the comments, because I would love to be able to create future content specifically for what you are going through. And I do read all of my comments. So I would love to hear from you. Please and thank you. And next, I'm going to share with you the 6th step to growing a strong running body this winter. But before I do that, if you're getting value from this and enjoying these steps and these tips and how to grow this strong running body this winter, I would greatly appreciate it if you can just hit the like button so I can continue creating free content like this so you can maintain a strong mind, a strong body, and you can just keep running. Please and thank you. Greatly appreciate that. And the last step that I want you to focus on this winter during your base building period is to improve your running form. Now, in looking at running form, I'm really talking about being more efficient. There's like 3 key areas that I want you to focus on during off season that relate to your running form or efficiency. The first is going to be breathing. This is an area I struggle with. I continue to struggle. I definitely have not mastered it. However, I have improved on it. And that is focusing on trying to master nasal breathing, right? So actually closing your mouth, which is probably hard, as you can imagine, for someone who has a podcast, right? I like to talk a lot, right? So I got to keep that mouth closed when I'm running and actually inhale and exhale through your nose. And that will actually encourage your diaphragm to work. Diaphragm is a muscle that is important in breathing, and it helps improve our efficiency as runners because it allows us to take in more oxygen. It allows us to actually expel more of the stuff that we want to expel so it doesn't go into our bloodstream, into our muscles, and then our muscles get fatigued. So if you can improve the efficiency in your breathing and start to work on that, I know for me, it's been a game changer to work on it even during non-running times, right? So when I am actually doing some guided meditation at night, trying to calm the brain down before so I can get a restful night's sleep, because recovery is also a part of the training. And then trying to incorporate that with running. I was never successful when I tried to do it while running, when I actually never practiced it, like not running. So I would highly recommend you try to focus on that first. And if you can improve that efficiency in this off season, again, stakes are lower. If you need to slow down your pace, who cares? It doesn't matter. You're still in that zone 2 heart rate anyway. You're still getting the benefits of doing the easy conversational pace. So this is the time, again, during off season, during winter, to try to get this down, work on these fundamentals. The other way to improve your running efficiency or form is implementing pre-run drills. So if you haven't implemented pre-run drills, these are especially important, multiple benefits, one of which is like turning on specific muscles before you run, which will make that first mile or 2 of your run just feel like so much smoother. You won't feel like a stiff board. You won't feel like achy. You won't feel like, you're like a brick. Like, most of us as we're aging here, the mornings are pretty like, right, you feel like kind of stiff, right? As you age in your journey, you guys feel me, like you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. Like don't play like you don't know what I'm talking about. But doing these pre-run drills are going to improve blood flow to your muscles and joints. They're going to turn specific muscles on that you want to use for running, so your form is better with running, and it improves our motor control. So it improves those signals from the brain to the muscles to be able to like turn on and do their thing. So these pre-run drills are going to be especially important for you. If you've never done them before, I have a 5-minute warm-up for running, which includes 4 drills at the end to perform prior to your running. So it's like a dynamic kind of movement prep, and then there's 4 drills at the end. I highly recommend that you learn those 4 drills to perform before running. I'll drop that link in the show notes as well, so you guys can get that. That's going to improve your efficiency. So if you're not doing that, again, low hanging fruit, like what can we work on in the off season? And then the last area that is going to really improve your running form is implementing strides once a week. So what are strides? They are short bursts of faster running. They are not all out sprints, but the goal is to get your legs turning over, your hips open up more, you go through more range of motion, you get more hip extension, you go more hip flexion, and you're spending less time on the ground. You're rebounding off the ground while staying relaxed in the upper body and controlled with faster running. So we're not tensing our neck and our shoulders aren't shrugging up toward our ears. We're keeping that nice and relaxed. Our arm swing is nice and efficient. Oftentimes, these are around 20 seconds or the length of a football field or the straightaway of a track. You don't need to go to a track to do these. You can do them right outside your house. You can either do these on flats. Sometimes you can do hill strides, depending upon your goals. Sometimes you could do them downhill if you're looking to improve your downhill running, if you have a downhill running course that you're training for in the spring. So to get an idea of just distance, and, I would say probably the most common prescription that I would prescribe for runners is doing like 4 by 20 seconds with a 1 minute recovery. So you can literally 4 times, you're going to gradually ramp up your speed for 20 seconds, gradually ramp up maybe for like 5, hold that top speed. Again, not a 10 out of 10 effort level, maybe like an 8 out of 10 effort level, and then gradually bring them down. Pace does not matter here. Don't try to hit a pace every single stride. The goal is actually to work into the strides. So you're going on feel. You're actually getting the brain body connections going, improving your running form, spending less time on the ground, getting the legs to turn over. And you'll notice, like, you'll do the first one, you'll be like, oh, that feels kind of weird, I didn't feel great. And then you'll kind of turn around, jog back, basically usually takes a minute. And then you're going to do another stride. That one will feel a little better. By the time you get to the third one, now you're like, ooh, okay, this feels good. Like I'm actually feel more efficient. I know I probably ran faster. But again, speed and pace isn't the goal here because we're not training an energy system. We're training your body to be more efficient at running. All right. And then you can progress strides. Like oftentimes I'll progress these for my athletes where you progress to maybe 5 reps, maybe 6 reps. Maybe you might decrease the recovery time to like only a 40-second recover, depending upon where you are in your training cycle. But if you start with like the 4 by 20 second with a 1 minute recovery, that's a great place for you to start if you've never done strides. So that's something that you'll see sometimes in marathon training programs, half marathon, but you don't see in the off season. Highly recommend. I've been doing these for 2 years now in the off season, and they're a game changer. And honestly, for the mind, it's great stimulation for the mind when you're not actually in full blown training mode. So really, the 6th step to improve your is improving your running form and efficiency. In that 6th step to growing a strong running body during the off season. So to recap for you guys here, I know it's a lot. I'm putting out a lot of information there, but I really wanted to package this in a way that makes sense during this time period of you finished your goal race and now what? So the 6 essential steps to getting a stronger running body this winter or off season are: step 1, starts with the mind. You got to reframe your mindset for winter or off season. Step 2, you got to think about strength training for running, right? Which is different than just normal strength training. So you have to double down on your strength training in order to run. Step 3, plyometrics in order to run. So we got to add that jump training element. Step 4, consistent running. It's not the time to take off weeks, months, or do 2 times a week of running and just being willy-nilly, right? Like if you have serious goals in the spring, then you need to have consistent running. And we talked about all those benefits of building that aerobic engine, which is going to help you be more efficient in the spring when you start training for a race. Step 5 is running nutrition matters. Step 6 is improve that running form. So make yourself a more efficient runner. And I share with you 3 tips on how to do that, whether it is breathing, the pre-race or pre-running drills, or it's adding in strides once a week into your plan. Don't forget to get your free strong glute guide ebook that contains bonus video content with specific actionable exercises on how to strengthen your run specific muscles. You can get that download by just going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com or just click the link in the show notes that I have for you. And you may be wondering, you know what, Duane, like all this sounds good, but does this stuff really work? Am I too old to get a stronger running body at this point? When you execute these 6 key steps in growing in your running journey during the winter months, you'll not only feel more confident in getting stronger and faster, you will actually stay healthy and enjoy the process of running again and crush some races in your next training cycle. Just like a well-built home will require little maintenance and bring you a lifetime of memories for you and your family, so will making this change be for your running. Like I think of Emily, who started working with Coach Whitney 8 months before the Chicago Marathon. Notice how I didn't say 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 18 weeks, 20 weeks. She started 8 months because Emily ran her first marathon in 2 years ago, and she was able to reach her race goals on her own, but she finished feeling hurt, discouraged, and this was going to be a one and done. She suffered from glute medius pain, shin splints, plantar fasciitis, and 1 year passed by and she continued to have shin and foot pain with running. She really wanted to run another marathon, but didn't know if her body would allow it. She then stumbled upon Spark Healthy Runner and the idea of a running coach who is interested in helping people run to be pain-free and enjoy lifelong injury-free running really resonated with Emily. And as she put it, I don't need to be the fastest. I just want to be able to do what I enjoy for many years to come. And after actually speaking with Emily, I knew that she was ready to make a change. And I knew Coach Whitney was perfect for really where she wanted to go in her running journey, conquering another marathon without getting injured and feeling discouraged. And Emily loved the regular deep dive calls, which really helped keep her on track and allow Coach Whitney to customize the training plan based on her crazy mom life schedule. She's a mom of 3, so any parent, you can relate to that schedule. Not only did Emily build a strong, solid foundation with many months of pain-free running starting in February, but she then was able to continue into our longevity program, getting guidance from Coach Whitney during her marathon training cycle, in which she completed her second marathon with a PR in Chicago. So not only was she able to run the second half of the marathon faster than a first, her recovery was actually amazing. And Emily turned 45 years old 3 days after the race, which is actually a couple weeks before I turned 45 this past year. And she felt so strong and accomplished. And I just love that. And like, we are so proud of the consistent work that Emily has put in and really look forward to seeing her continue to build on that marathon journey of hers this upcoming year. Or I think of folks like Tammy, who only started running 5 years ago and describes herself as a quote unquote slow back of the pack runner. She's part of our 169 group here in Connecticut and has actually completed a race in all 169 towns in Connecticut. And she felt like she was constantly injured. She wanted to get past injuries and be able to run pain-free. She contacted me last November and started working with Coach Whitney in late February with the goal of building a strong base for the Chicago Marathon. She needed to learn how to strength train and she needed consistency in her running, which was 2 main things I talked about today, 2 of the steps, right? And Tammy did, in fact, go on to complete her marathon in Chicago. So we're just so proud of her. Or I think of folks like Jesse, who is an officer in the military, bright guy, very well developed muscular body from being an athlete his whole life. He played football. He was a sprinter. Like, dude's got some serious muscle. However, he was now 30 years old. He was struggling with a negative mindset with running. his overall fitness and his body because he had knee pain for 10 years. And the knee pain he had with running discouraged him from running long distances and reaching his full potential as an adult athlete. On my first call with Jesse, I answered his questions about, running, fitness, nutrition. The workouts that I gave him were like easy for him to complete. And I was able to make those adjustments to his kind of busy work calendar. And I assured him that if he stuck with the program, his knee pain would feel better. And it did, right? After 10 years of having knee pain, this guy was like athletic. After 10 years, giving him the right exercises, building up the right muscles that he needed for strength training was key. And after completing the program, his knee felt amazing. And best of all, now he has a positive mindset about running and his fitness goals. And I'm happy to report to you guys that from the time period that he graduated from working with me in the program in April, he continued to progress in his running journey. And he just texted me a couple months ago that he successfully completed his first half marathon all without knee pain. So I'm just excited for Jesse and like this second half of his running journey and seeing what that looks like in his 30s. Or I think of Jason, who started in February in our program for an August race, working with Coach Lou. And Jason attempted the Lean Horse 100 miler last year and unfortunately DNF. So he did not finish. He had a bow out at mile 80, and he was ready to try a different approach and was tired of the little injuries always interrupting his training cycles and preventing him from getting the most out of the training cycle. And as he put it, you can't keep doing what you've always done and expect different results. So Jason and I hopped on a call, and I knew Coach Lou was like his guy. And Coach Lou spent the time necessary to keep Jason's training calendar updated and also checked in with him beyond their regularly scheduled monthly deep dive video sessions. And Jason conquered a 100-mile race, completing the Lean Horse 100-miler this year. And Jason really says the difference in the Spark Healthy Runner program and Coach Lou's training approach was the major factor in him being able to successfully complete the race this year. And he had never had such a tough training load before, especially in those peak weeks of training. But his body had been conditioned thoroughly. And this is the important part, guys, in the weeks and months prior by Coach Lou and his training plan, that he didn't experience any physical injuries or even nagging little pains throughout the training cycle. So that's the key there, guys. And then lastly, guys, I just want to mention another runner in our community who is just an amazing person, Bobby, who first started working with Coach Cat 9 months before her first ever marathon, which is the Detroit Free Press Marathon. And before joining our program, Bobby had dabbled in running 5Ks, attempted a half marathon about 8 years ago using those online training plans, not knowing anything about training. She didn't realize that she was doing too much too soon and suffered a huge overuse injury to the tendon in her knee that she couldn't shake. She finished her half, but not with excruciating pain, right? So that's when she was training on her own. So Bobby gave up on her running dream. And I hate to hear this, by the way, but it does get better, guys. Like, trust me, because I hate when runners are told, especially like when they're in the situation that Bobby was in, that they have an injury and maybe they've been told by other medical professionals that maybe running is not just for them, or they're getting too old for running. That is just like very disconcerting to me because we all know the multiple physical and mental benefits that running affords us. So the story gets better. Fast forward to this past January. She was trying to get back into running now. And she was like very ambitiously signed up for the Detroit Free Press Marathon, which was scheduled on October 20th, which is actually my birthday. So while on a run, she started listening to the Healthy Runner podcast and learned of the coaching program. And she knew she absolutely had to join. She wanted to be a healthy runner and not a worry runner, which is where she was due to these flare-ups of knee pain that constantly happen. So Bobby scheduled the strategy call with me to see if she was a good fit. And based upon her history and her goals, I knew Coach Cat was exactly what she needed. As Bobby put it, I wish everyone had a Coach Cat in their life. She listened and understood my needs and struggles. She developed a training plan that was designed specifically for me. I felt so elite, a plan just for me. And then she put the LOL. That ebbed and flowed with her progress. And she says this part is important. She had that overuse injury flare up about 2 months in, and she totally freaked out. Legit tears, everything, right? Like, can you guys relate to this if this has ever happened to you? However, Coach Cat was there. She was there to calm her down and assured her that this was not the end of the world and that these things are common and we can actually work through these without having to stop running. And Bobby had her doubts because this was the exact same pain that she had and stopped her so many times in her tracks, many times before. And not only did Coach Cat and Bobby work through the pain and it went away, but she never stopped running in the meantime. And this was like mind blown moment for Bobby. So from then on, she ran a bonus half marathon in June and then completed her very first marathon in October, both with gas left in the tank and two huge accomplishments in 1 year without a hitch. And after that initial freak out, as she says, she ran a marathon without pain. So Bobby has been forever changed and is thrilled that she is where she is in her running journey now. And Coach Cat and I are looking forward to seeing her continue that journey, heading into another winter, building a stronger base building and develop a stronger foundation for which running will be built upon. And she has been the happiest runner in the world since discovering us. So I just love Bobby. I love hearing her story. And maybe some of these stories, and the reason I share them is because you might be going through something similar. You might be able to relate to Bobby. You might be able to relate to Jason. You might be able to relate. Like, this stuff that I share with you through this medium, I don't just share it with you because I'm like, I don't know, haven't done this stuff myself, haven't seen many runners actually go through this. Like, I share this stuff because it works. And these are just like 5 examples from the hundreds and hundreds of runners who have implemented the Spark method of strengthening your body for running during the winter months. So my name is Dr. Duane Scotti, and my mission is to save the lives of runners everywhere by allowing them to enjoy lifelong injury-free running. I'm the founder of Spark Healthy Runner. In this training, I covered the what are the 6 steps to strengthen your body for running and why you need to implement these steps during your off season from racing. However, if you have listened to me during previous trainings like this and you are still worried or frustrated with constant injuries or wonder why you are not improving as a runner, I want to invite you to learn and implement the how for each of these 6 steps I shared with you today. You can spark off your winter running with a 4-month strong body transformation. We are currently accepting applications for our Spark Healthy Runner Winter Strong Body Coaching. So if you want to fast track your growth in strengthening your body for running and get clarity and focus, all with full support and guidance, like Emily did, Tammy did, Jesse did, Jason. I mentioned Teresa before. I also mentioned Sean, right? Like, they did that during the winter months. That's why I shared those specific examples, because it was during this time period. So this is exactly what we do in our individualized 101 Winter Strong Body Coaching Program. You will be guaranteed to grow a stronger, injury-free running body so you can get in those stress-relieving runs all winter long. You're going to get the structure, the support, the accountability to transform into a stronger runner, feeling more confident, healthy, and running faster this spring, even if you don't think you're a fast runner. So you can apply using the special link that I have for you in the description to this training. We only have 8 spots available, full disclosure here, for this special winter strong body transformation program. This is like, honestly, I love being able to help runners. I love being able to see the impact running has on their lives when they can do it healthy and when they can hit their goals. I get more joy in my heart, honestly, seeing someone invest in their health during this time period, because I know it's counterintuitive to what your brain is thinking. I know your brain is thinking, I have this big race that I got into New York, I got into Chicago, I'm doing Berlin. I have this big goal. I'm not going to invest in coaching now because I'm going to really need it like a month before the race. If you ain't healthy, if your running isn't efficient, it ain't going to matter what you're doing a month before that race. Right. So it just like pains my heart every time I hear a runner have to drop out a month or two before their goal race because they got injured or because they're not building out the mileage that they need to do the race. This is the time period. So again, this is like my call to action for you. I want you to really do a deep dive self intake on yourself and know, okay, all these 6 steps Duane shared with me, am I going to actually implement it, or do I need to actually put my money where my mouth is? Like, do I need to be held accountable? Do I need to actually invest in this? Because I know when I invest in something, I'm going to actually do it. This is the most important time period throughout the calendar year for whatever your running goal is in the spring, next fall. This is the time period for which all that builds. So, just sharing with you experience, and I share with you some other runners who have, gotten those 6 steps clarified for them, and they were able to get over their sticking point. So it's been really great, honestly, sharing this with you today. I hope you found it super helpful. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video to help you get strong, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury-free running. And this training was all about the 6 essential steps to growing a stronger running body this winter or during the off season. Strength training is a huge part of this strategy, as I mentioned. Now you can learn how to master my top 7 strength exercises for runners, all within 25-minute workout video that I have for you next.